Hello and welcome back to another edition of Eternal Evolution with Akbar the Buffmaster. Today we are looking at bug gear. What is bug gear? Where can it be used? Who is it good on? And how do you determine when you should use bug gear and when you shouldn't? These are the type of things we are going to discuss in this video. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to look at is what is Bugmaster gear good for? And for this, I'm going to put on my old man glasses. Those are the people that are in our guild now. Okay, I'm no purple, but I'm no Zymos either. People in our guild will get that reference. Okay, so looking at Rebecca here, or looking at bug gear. Rebecca doesn't matter. First, we'll read the two set piece. The set bonus says damage dealt by the user or their summons is increased by 50% against normal bugs, elites, and bosses. The effect of this cannot stack. So two main ideas here. First of all, it does extra damage to insectoids, be it an elite, boss, etc. But it has to say insectoid. Secondly, the effects of the set do not stack. So I have let's say that these are my two pieces that I am wearing. Okay, so I get 50% from the set. Regardless of how many more pieces I have, I will never exceed this 50% for the set bonus. Okay, so I could have four pieces, I still get 50% extra damage from bug gear from the set. However, where you can still increase your damage even more so are through the substats. The substats that says damage to insectoids increased. This does stack, and there is no limit to this amount. So, for the sake of argument, on this setup that I have here we have 11.4 from the substats. Here another 16.2. Here 15%, and from our boots we have another 12%. This is a total of 54.6%. Okay, so I'd get 50% from the set itself, and then another 54.6% from the substats for a total of 104.6% against insectoids. Okay, that is the idea of Bugmaster and how Bugmaster gear works. So, in our next part, let's look at where you can use Bugmaster. Okay, so where can Bugmaster gear be used? If we come into border in Cartosian triangle, we see a couple of insectoids lurking around here. Down in Crimson Rot, you will see up here on the top left where it says Sasori, uh, by the by next to the name you see insectoid. If that isn't quite clear enough for you, and if you ever have a doubt, if you click strategy where the boss is, again it will say insectoid up there. That means that versus this boss, the Bugmaster gear will take effect. Not only the set bonus, but also those substats that give extra damage to insectoids. The same thing here in the triangle, we have this pesky little guy, Salon, Salonria. I don't know how you say the name, but again, another insectoid that you can see. Other places where you will encounter insectoids in Exotic Expedition. The Vanguard boss is an insectoid. Likewise, in Guild Hunt, the spider is an insectoid. So in any of these areas where it says insectoid, then you will be able to use bug gear effectively. Other examples where you will find occasional insectoids. Twilight, the mini summon bosses or the summon bonds are insectoids. And currently in Endless Battle, we have two insectoids. We have the spider boss here. You can see that it says this is the Vanguard one. It says insectoid. And also over here the Forbidden Beast, which is basically what we just looked at in the Cartosian triangle. This is also an insectoid. So whenever you see this, you want to think about, is it viable for me to use Bugmaster gear versus this boss. Okay, now how do you determine if Bugmaster gear is going to be beneficial to you in any given fight or for a certain hero? Let's get into that part now. Okay, so how do we determine which heroes to use Bugmaster on and if it's really going to be beneficial or not? Firstly, I want to give a comparison as most people are pretty familiar with Surge and Marauder sets, right? We know that they are great sets, but sometimes we get it into our head that we have to put on the set. We have to put on the set regardless of the stats, and this is not the case. No matter what the set, you always want to try to at least get comparable stats than what you would be able to get with, for example, using just Hero, Signet, Overload. Okay, if you can get similar stats with a Marauder, a Surge, or so forth, now the set bonus is going to kick in, and because your stats are comparable, the overall effect, and productiveness of that hero is going to skyrocket. So let's imagine, for example, and I have seen this based on true life experiences. Okay, so here we have complete tempered set. Oh, my Cariolis is so amazing. I have such great gear. But why is he not doing any damage? Well, the reason he's not doing any damage is yes, you have all tempered stats, but the stats, or you have a complete tempered set, but the stats are not very good for this hero, right? So this is not going to work. And we can or we can fall into the same trap with Bugmaster. Now, over here, we have this tempered surge set, and now this guy is going to uh, kick some booty. Why? Because not now we do have the set bonus, but we also have it in comparable stats as if we were just running Hero, Signet, in Overload. Okay, so comparable stats. So let's look at that with terms of hunters, since this is one of the endless battle insectoids that are up. Now, I was talking to Benzo, and we both agree that, well, this is what I had thought, but I wanted to confirm it with him since Benzo is the man. And that is to say that hunters are more difficult than your average hero in order to really make Bugmaster work. And the reason is not only do you have to be able to get your crit rate, your attack percentage, your crit damage, but in addition to those key stats, now you also need attack speed in order to kick out some good damage. So with Rebecca here, remember we're looking for comparable stats. With Rebecca here, we have 43 attack, 64, well, basically 65 crit rate with 334 attack speed. If you compare that to what her normal build would be, we have 48 attack, okay, 48 attack versus 43, right? We have 88, 89%, which is 100% for her, but 89 versus 64% crit rate, so we lose quite a bit of crit rate there. And then attack speed 320 to 334. That is pretty much a wash. So is that crit rate that we lose and the attack that we lose worth it for the set bonus in the additional stats here? Which here, to try to get some stats, I went with this piece, and we're just getting this 10% here, and total 60% extra damage. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you some screenshots. The most ideal thing that you want to do is you want to test. Try to get as many stats as you can with Bugmaster, as comparable as you can to what they would normally have, and then compare that damage to what they were doing previously. I have already tested, it's not in this video, but I have already tested that Resetis far and away does more damage in this tempered set with her just her normal build than she did uh, with Bugmaster. Bugmaster was a big fill on her. So how will it work on Rebecca in Artemis? That's what we're going to test in this video going forward. Okay, so the first thing that we're looking at is Rebecca. This is the gear sets that we just looked at, and we're looking at a comparison of damage. She did in this bug set, she did 2.9 billion, and in her normal set, she did 2.5 billion. I tested this several times, and the damage was always pretty consistently what it reflects right here. What does this mean? It means that the 60% bonus damage that we got 50% from the set bonus and 10% from that one piece outweighs the 24% crit rate that we're losing in the 5K attack that we are losing. Okay, so this really shows the power that Bugmaster has. So as long as you have decent pieces that are going to get you anywhere comparable to your previous stats, then you're going to be able to increase your damage. This zero point 0.4 or zero point 0.5 extra billion damage, zero point 0.4, sorry, zero point 0.4 billion damage that we're getting, it comes out to quite a decent amount of points if you add it up, taking into consideration the bonus damage that heroes get. Okay, so this is Rebecca. Now, let's take a look at Artemis. My Artemis is I only have 2 copies of Artemis, so she is yellow 2. Yellow or yellow 1 star, right? Yellow 1 star, 2 copies. And that's what you saw in my inventory screen, my hero screen. So in this, it's a little bit different. In the first one, we pretty much completely forego crit rate. We went with 23k attack and only 22 attack speed. And I hadn't updated my Artemis gear for quite a while since I only have 2 copies. I don't actually ever use her except for in endless events, and I guess she's in Desert Caves also. It doesn't really matter what equipment she has on there though. So this was my first. Would you will say a second um, updated build in a second here. The build on the right is an updated build over what I had previously. So, but if we're kind of comparing these two, we have 50% more crit rate on the right, but we do lose 5%, or sorry, 5k attack, but we also have over 300 attack speed, which is the sweet spot with Resurgence. How does that equate to damage? Well, damage wise is almost identical. That's with just over 630 million damage, 630 million. So disparity in stats, pretty great. Bugmaster set showing its flex and its power. But there it's kind of a wash. Doesn't matter which one you use. However, now that we improve our stats a little bit, right now we have 16k attack, 73% crit rate with that 300 attack speed, and now you look that we see an increase of 50 million damage. At this level, that's not a lot. But again, she gets 20% bonus points, so it does come out to a few more points. But imagine if she were 5 copies or 6 copies or max. Now, this set here with this Bugmaster would do quite a bit more damage. Okay, so this is the kind of testing that you need to do. Try to get as much stats as you can and or as much percentage damage from Bugmaster and test the difference. Run it a few different times. Don't just look at your total points because there's a little bit of RNG there. It may be that one hero picked up the slack while another one didn't perform as well. Look at the damage of that individual hero to see if it increased or not. And then you'll go through little by little until you see for each person on the team which set that they're going to be best in. Play around with that a little bit. All right, now let's compare this to Vanguards. Okay, so now here we are with Vanguards. I mentioned that hunters are probably the most difficult to make bug gear work. Where on the other side of the spectrum, vanguards are probably the easiest. One, vanguards mostly just need either hit points or attack, one of the two, for events like this, and then some accuracy. All right, you don't have to worry about crit rate, crit damage, or any of those type of things. Now, if it's something like Guild Expedition later on and the boss is difficult, you're probably going to have to make that be hit points and DR. But in events like this, one of the things that make Vanguards so easy is that you can use other sets on them. You can use surge sets and they can be attack based. So, for example, this is Ampu's gear and missing the boots because I have them currently on one of my other vanguards. But just an example, you can borrow your gear from other heroes like an Ampu or a Jaina in order to make it work. The damage, this this charge set, a tempered charge set because I had a tempered charge set on here with bug gear, does the same damage, virtually identical as this tempered attack base charge set, virtually identical to a hit point based surge set. So with Iris, with some people, this going to give you more flexibility and easier to gear multiple heroes when it comes to vanguards. Okay, the person that we are going to focus on the most is going to be Zane, and the screenshot is going to be Zane. So I will show you in here also Claire. Claire does way more damage in her Bugmaster gear. So if we see here, she has 1.7 million hit points versus 961. She has 83 accuracy, which is perfect for 150 versus 129. If I could optimize that a little bit more, get in an HP helmet on her, then her damage would increase even more. This is the one drawback, making the difference incredibly by a large margin. But she still does decently more. What about Zane? Well, Zane, we're going to take a look at a screenshot. Okay, so here we are with the main man Zane, the man that is insane in the membrane. Zane, with his bug set, did 4.1 billion damage. 4.1 billion damage. Unfortunately, I thought I had everything perfect for this video, but anyway, I am what I am, and that is a noob. Without his without bug set, focus just on the 3.5. The set is wrong. 3.5 billion damage. We're going to go back into the game and take a look at the difference in sets. Okay, so remember 4.1 billion damage versus 3.5. Okay, so here we are to finish up the video back in game with our main man Zane. And this is the screenshot that you saw, 1.8 billion that did hit points with 152 accuracy that did 4.1 billion damage. And the set that did 3.5 billion damage has 2 million hit points. Again, just over 150 accuracy with a little bit more damage reduction. So you see that when the stats are close, you do quite a bit more damage. And even when the stats are a little bit dispersed, like what we saw with Artemis, then you can still possibly do more damage with the Bugmaster. However, if the stats are with such a wide margin, then the damage output or the difference is going to be minute, or perhaps you would even do worse depending on how bad your stats will be. So, what did we learn? Bugmaster can be used in various areas of the game, some parts of Katosian Triangle, in Twilight. I mentioned summoners, but also in some energy levels. It can be used. It can be used in Guild Hunt and Guild Expedition, as well as Exotic Expedition. What is it good for? It's good to fight against bosses that specifically say Insectoid. And how do you know when you can use it? Well, if you can get somewhat comparable stats with Bugmaster mixed in, you're going to see benefits from that. Make sure to play test and experiment with your individual heroes in your account, what's available to you, to see how much of a difference that it will make. I hope that you have found this video helpful and beneficial. If you have, then click like or subscribe or thumbs down, whatever your heart moves you to do. Okay, that's going to be it for me today. Until later, ciao for now.